It's Frontier Opening Bell. This is the show. Welcome to it. I'm Temple Ashajo. We've got on the show this morning Agnes Gital, who joins us from the United Kingdom. Agnes, good morning. Very good to have you on the show. Bosun Omofai, Executive Editor here at Frontier Africa Report. Thank you for coming through, Bosun. We're really glad to have you on the show. Let's check in with the markets, where the Nigerian exchange yesterday was marginally up 0.02% at 38,220.01. The PRVM exchange was also positive 0.11%. That's in Cote d'Ivoire. Egyptian exchange in Cairo, Egypt was also marginally up 0.03%. Nairobi Securities Exchange in Kenya, 1.61% leap to start a Monday. That's a strong start. But then Johannesburg Stock Exchange in South Africa was the only market we tracked that went southward yesterday by 24 basis points at 66,166.8 points position. Let's look at the Eastern African market headlines. I&M Partners Bank One Mauritius to offer offshore investment. Treasury to present clearance from National Assembly for loans over 1 billion Kenyan shillings. In Kenya, FX reserves continues to rise, rose by $1.38 billion to $9.5 billion. The KRA, Kenya's Revenue Authority, tax collection hit 8-year high of 1.669 trillion Kenyan shillings for the full year 2020-2021. In Tanzania, very ambitious. They're looking to make COVID-19 vaccine to reduce importation costs. That's in that country. Let's start with you, Agnes. Get your thoughts on this East African market headlines and then hear Bosun for his perspectives.
Good morning, Temple. Good morning, everybody. Great headlines coming from the east coast of Africa. Allow me to start with the Tanzanian story. From denying COVID ever existed to now planning to manufacture COVID vaccine at home. I think that's such a turnaround. I think 360, which is a good sign, and rightly so, because as we know, Africa vaccination rates are below 2% compared to the developed economies where you have over 40% of the population vaccinated. So I think that's a good sign. Under President Samia Suluhu, I said it here that this woman is the one to look out for. I think female leadership for the continent, if it's to go by what Samia is showing us, I think it's something we should look out for. Remember, she's also considered, regulate, allowing cryptocurrency in the country. So I'm really fascinated by Samia Suluhu. But jokes aside, I think producing vaccine at home in the continent is the way forward. We cannot continue to depend on developed economy. We have what it takes. We are taxing our people heavily. Africa collects over $500 billion from taxes annually. Surely they have the capability to produce at home without every time when there's a crisis going out there and begging for support. And beyond vaccine manufacturing, I think we should consider investing in Africans' healthcare infrastructure. So that's a good story coming from Tanzania. But again, action speaks louder than words. We wait and see. Kenya FX reserve rise by 1.3.8 billion. I think this is as a result of IMF program, which was agreed upon back in February. IMF and the World Bank are supporting Kenya post-COVID recovery. I think beginning of last month, World Bank released $130 million. We are waiting for the $2.4 billion from IMF. I think obviously these will boost Kenya's FX reserves and also contribution from the diaspora remittance, which has continued to rise. An interesting story from Treasury. They will have to get clearance if they are to borrow money over 1 billion Kenya shillings. I think that's good. I think is National Assembly's attempt to curtail government's borrowing and obviously to manage Kenya's debt. Obviously, Treasury has said they're going to continue borrowing. They have a budget deficit of about $10 billion. These will come from both external and domestic borrowing. But certainly there are calls by Kenyans for government or Treasury to manage the debt well. And I think the Parliamentary Accounts Committee will have to get Treasury will have to get approval from parliamentary accounts committee. Again, Kenya Revenue Authority, we spoke about this yesterday, June 30th being the cut-off date for Kenyans to file their returns. They've done very well. They've become very efficient in collecting taxes from poor Kenyans, heavily taxed. With nothing to show for it from the public service. So suddenly, KRA is taxing the Kenyans. I think the government will be smiling all the way to the bank. I think for us is to just constantly make sure that this revenue that is collected goes to public service. That's my comment on the East African headlines, Temple.
Thank you very much, Agnes, for those comments and perspectives shared there. Bosun, quickly, your thoughts on these headlines before we travel to the East African or to the Western African markets, where Ayodeji Ebo, who has just joined us from Chapel Denham in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, will be giving us some or shedding more light on those headlines there. Ayodeji, thank you for coming through. But Bosun, quickly, let's hear your thoughts on the East African markets before we move on.
Well, I think I would briefly speak to the I&M Bank, which is in Rwanda, in Kenya, and a few other East African community or countries partnering with the Bank One of Mauritius on the island of the Indian Ocean to offer offshore investments. I think this is one handshake across the Indian Ocean that we cannot ignore in terms of how you see in collaborations, how we're seeing a whole lot of partnership between banks to offer investment opportunities into offshore Mauritius and from offshore Mauritius inland to East African community. I think this is one good news that we're seeing a whole lot more of this coming up within the banking sector, the financial services space within the African continent. I think it's one good news moving forward as well. We just thought we should let everyone see that.
Thank you very much, Bosen. Now let's travel to the West African and Nigerian markets. Joseph Makoju of formerly Dangote Cement, and of course Kola Jamodu, another magnate, former chairman or president of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, on Kogi State's new Economic Advisory Council now. OPEC Plus decisions indefinitely on KSA UAE face-off. Better Glass, a listed company on the Nigerian exchange, paying 104 kobo per share dividend for the 2020 financial year. Seplat Energy hosting capital markets events at the London Stock Exchange July 29, that's later this month. Ghana's auto market projected to hit $11 billion in 2026. Bridge Bank Cote d'Ivoire signed MOU of 10 million euros deal with ITFC. Boson is from Kogi State, that I know for sure. So to avoid some partial comments here, let me hear your thoughts on this first headline, Ayodeji Ebo, and perhaps a couple of the other corporate headlines.
I think the appointment of the Makoju, these are very seasoned, I would say, financial advisors or economic advisors and within the private sector. And I think that from what we've been seeing, for most of them, they would play their role by providing economic advisory to the state. But what we've been seeing mostly is that most of the states really don't take advantage of this. And they use this as more of like a show off to show that they align with strong minds. So I'm not really excited about this, and I don't expect to see any major impact. Though it's also good to align with very strong minds. I'm also moving to the news on the OPEC decision. You would, yes, I think for us, it's I would say it has two sides to it. So higher oil prices increase our dollar revenue, but when you also look at in terms of subsidy payment, so what we would see the face-off between Saudi Arabia and UAE, what you will begin to see pressure from the consuming nations because higher crude oil prices translates to higher petroleum product prices, which would impact on the cost of goods and services in those countries. So, but I think for now, we know that production will still remain at current levels for the month of August because there was no date that was agreed. Now, speaking to Better Glass dividend payments, we know that Better Glass is into automotive production of automotive windscreens, and we've seen that uptick within that space, and they've been able to, though they've, in terms of within the radar, most people don't even know what they produce, but what time they've sustained that profitability in the market, and they continue to grow over time. And maybe speaking on this second to the last point on Seplat, Seplat had just changed its name to Energy from Seplat Petroleum, which we know that that also it's the program is more of giving them feasibility. It's good to have some of this program hold in those climbs so that we can also share some of the things that is really happening. And quickly, lastly, the Ghana auto market. I feel that most of it's really sad that we can. Uh, Most of the companies are setting up in Ghana, and we know that the main market here is Nigeria. So it means that we are creating jobs for them there in Ghana, and we are going to be the major consumer of those products. And we know that we are still even suffering from the challenges of unemployment. So I feel that it's a call for our policymakers to see what they can do in terms of ease of doing business for us to attract foreign direct investments in the country. Thank you.
Thank you. You almost said it all, but let's still give Bosun a chance to give us some analysis here.
Just a few seconds on the Kogi State, and I agree with Ayodeji. We've seen far more of, after all being said and done, more is being said than done. So we want to see more being done than being said. But somehow, I read through the 4 or 5 page press statement from the Kogi State media people, and I think to an extent, the state governors are beginning to see that the days of petroleum money, free money from FARC allocation is beginning to thin out. Last week, the presentation at the National Economic Council on Friday showed that the central bank will start refinancing state governments for the loans or debt loans that they took from the federal government. So I guess the word is out from the Ministry of Finance, from the central bank, and perhaps from the president, Mr. President himself, that the days of free money is over, and that the day that every one of them can depend on oil is getting over. With the whole PIB now on the street, the host communities will get money. The whole landscape is changing. So if any state governor is sitting down and think that everything will come from Abuja, then he's living in the past. So I think to that extent, they are beginning to crawl out of their holes, as it were, or looking at, look, we're going to begin to have problems at the state level. Right now, folks talk about the federal government, but it's going to start happening tempo very soon if we're not careful, in which folks will go on the streets. There was social unrest against this subnational head of this subnational, the state governments, and down to the local government. So I think it is in their best interest that they come out very quickly and begin to attract the best brains within the state who will help them to leverage local and foreign investments like Jamodu from Makuju and the rest of them. That is in their best interest, and I think the earlier they do that, the better. As far as Ghana's auto market is concerned, look, it's not just about electricity or good roads or whatever it is in Ghana. Investors reward political good behavior, political stability, and consistency. Ghana has shown that in terms of choosing their elected leaders with very or little rancor moving forward. So political stability is one thing because it helps you get yourself focused on other socio-economic policy matters. And that's what Ghana has done. And that's what investors
Thank you very much,
rewarding.
Bosun. Thanks a great deal. Let's move on now to the Southern African markets. IATF 2021 now to hold in Durban, South Africa, November the 15th to 21st of 2021. So, of course, mining veteran Kalidas is Glencore new chairman. Gold shining better as central banks look to resume buying. And Botswana Stock Exchange, Sefalana, a listed company there, is sounding some profit warning, saying profits will be 10% and 12% higher this time. In Zimbabwe, the Zim energy regulator delays fuel price review on market developments. We will start with you, Agnes. IATF was meant to hold in Rwanda, eastern part of Africa, December. Now that has been changed by the Advisory Council. Talk to us more about this and perhaps make your choice for another headline that you'd like to analyze.
Thank you, Tempo. Commenting on the South African headlines, I guess the move by ITF is informed by COVID cases. Yesterday's headline was we led by the story that African fourth or fifth wave is threatening the key sectors like tourism and hospitality. So I believe this move is based on the fact that, in fact, November 15, I think, is quite ambitious, but I guess meetings and conferences are heavily affected by the rise in COVID cases. Mining veteran Kalidas has over 40 years experience in the mining sector, and I guess being the chair of Glencore will be quite positive for the company that has had an overhaul of its leadership. He has worked in Ghana, so in DRC Congo, where the company has invested over $8 billion in copper and cobalt. So I guess he brings in that industry experience, and it would just be positive for the Glencore company.
Thank you very much. Thanks a great deal, Agnes. Ayo, what are your thoughts on the gold repurchasing interest or indication by the central banks?
Okay, I think what they are also trying to do is also to just maybe increase the increase the money in circulation, so a way to pass through money and also a way to preserve value through gold. But what I think I can say to that is for most of the central banks they are trying to say how they want to diversify their external reserves, and they look at different asset classes that they can use to preserve value. So not only having your reserves in dollars, we've seen how gold has been able to, in terms of the performance over in the last year, and it's been very impressive. So I believe that that's what most other central banks are also trying to do.
Thank you very much, Ayodeji. Bosin, do you think Zimbabwe is trying to be cautious with their delay of fuel price review, given that they are still trying to taper inflation in the country?
Oil price right now, Tempo is the dragon. Nigeria is trying to hold it down in terms of oil prices. You know, the subsidy is there. It keeps rising every day. You see oil prices go up. Gas prices has gone up in the United States. Everyone is going to feel it. Very strong high oil prices at this particular time keeps inflation, central bank on edge. Everybody's looking at what is the inflation consequence of it. So there's no free ride anywhere anymore. The world has completely changed. So because oil prices is moving, you are reopening up economy. Over there in the UK, you're looking at to fully reopen sometime in July 17th or July 19th, in about 2 weeks from now. That's good news. So when summer comes and the airplanes get back into the skies, they have oil prices up at the same time, Tempo. That is trouble, because that means that your flight tickets is going to be up, and a whole lot of other things is going to get impacted. So good news on one hand, but again, not so good on the other hand.
Thank you so much, Bosin. Northern African markets, where Egypt, Iraq is to re-establish Joint Business Council. Talat Mustafa Group Holding holds or records some first half sales of 21 billion Egyptian pounds. NBE grants 500 million Egyptian pounds loan to Egyptian General Company for tourism. AMMC declared Nexon's Maroc public buyout offer admissible. And finally, in Morocco, Yahya Charib is the new managing director of Saham Assurance, one of the major assurances or insurance companies in Morocco. I'll start with you, Agnes, and then Bosin.
Why, Tempo, do you have to start with me? Interesting story. I'll go with the first story. It's great to see Iraq and Egypt reestablished.
Ladies go first.
It's great to see Egypt, Iraq reestablish business relationship. I guess that means stability for the region. And yeah, great to see Egypt and Iraq working
Thank you.
together.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much. I mean, that brings about some clarity into trade ties between those countries again. Bossing, your thoughts before we come to you, Ayodeji.
The National Bank of Egypt 500 million local currency to Egyptian General Company for Tourism. I think what the Egyptians are trying to do is that, look, we're going to get our hands around this virus one way or the other, whether it is with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10. We're going to move on with our lives as a people, and here and there, the virus is not going to conquer us. So what the Egyptians are doing is that, look, the Pyramid of Giza and the rest of them still remain the point of attraction. So what they're doing is preparing themselves. The Egyptian General Company for Tourism, that's a very big company in Egypt, by the way. So they're getting more money, prepare the place so that when visitors come, they'll be able to attract them. So tell them to come because the summer is here between now and next year. So they're getting ready. And I think everybody should be getting
We
ready.
understand the money is a grant, but there's no free lunch anywhere. These guys know what they're doing. Well, Ayodeji, your thoughts and perhaps to share with us one of the markets watch that you have today at Chapel Hill Denham.
Okay, thank you. I think speaking to the point on the tourism, and I feel it's based on how strategic it is to the economy. Based on the data, 2017 contributes over 1 million jobs, and in terms of GDP, it contributes over about 4%. So what you're trying to do is they know the implication of people getting out of jobs that will boost increase in security and also impact negatively even on their production. So trying to salvage the situation, they know this virus, like Watson said, would be over soon and economy will still pick up and they'll be able to recover that. So it's a bit of intervention and support for that industry.
Many thanks. Thanks a great deal, Ayodeji Ebo from Chapel Hill Denham Advisory Bank for your analysis on the show this morning. Thank you so much, Agnes Gital from the United Kingdom. Appreciate your insights. Bosun Amofaye, thank you so much as well for your considerations and your editorial on the show this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your presence. This has been the show for today. I'm Temple Ashaju. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.